We call the meeting to order. Thank you for council members for being here. Thank you for guests, both personally and for those on Zoom. Hirsch, do you want to put forth the minute approvals?
Yes.
Wait a minute. For those who don't know, Hirsch was exposed to COVID Friday night. He tested negative yesterday, but in deference to caution, Hirsch is joining us via Zoom today. So, excuse me, Hirsch. Okay.
The first item for approval of the council is the minutes of the May meeting. And I would entertain a motion that the minutes of the May meeting be approved as distributed.
So move.
Second.
That was moved by Tom and seconded by Jerry Ann. Hirsch.
Any further additions or corrections? Then all in favor of approving the minutes of the May meeting?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, minutes approved. I'm also reporting the results of the all residents portion of or the residents association meeting, special meeting to approve the constitution and bylaw changes. Those changes basically set the date for the annual meeting to December as opposed to November, and requires monthly meetings of the association of the council, except in months when there's an all residents meeting. So I forward that report since we will not have an all residents meeting for another few months to approve those minutes.
Thank you very much, Hirsch. Anything else that you have this morning?
Nothing else.
Okay, Mr. Zimmer.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I'll stand so you can hopefully hear me in the back. My report this month is going to be a little bit different. A couple of weeks ago, Chris and I attended the Leading Age California annual conference and board meeting. And this year, they created different tracks in terms of their curriculum. And one of the tracks that they had was on artificial intelligence. So I attended as many of those sessions as allowed as I could. And while I was down there, I emailed Devin as I came out of one of the sessions. And I said, Devin, can you put together a report as to where we are with our technology investment for the previous 6 months and for the last 6 months of the year? And little did I know that he was going to use AI to put together that report. So I thought it would be interesting if we could take the next 10 minutes and 22 seconds for all of you to hear that report, because it not only talks about our investment in technology, but it also gives insight as to how we're using the technology to improve operations, to make decisions, and so on. So with that, I hope it works, John.
John Rico hopes it works even more than you.
My report This is my report.
So I did share my tech plan presentation with a couple AI assistants, and they wanted to, so they wanted to talk a little bit about it before I say anything. So I'm going to have them start it off.
These sources really lay out a focused vision for the next 6 months, starting June 2025. And they detail how they plan to use tech for, well, real improvements.
Okay, so our mission here in this deep dive is to guide you through these. We'll pull out the key initiatives, the thinking behind them, and what they're actually hoping to achieve.
And what's really compelling, I think, and it's right there in the strategy document, is this filter they use. Every single initiative, big or small, has to answer yes to one, maybe all three key questions.
Which are?
Does it reduce workload? Does it provide better information faster? And does it improve resident experience?
Ah, okay.
Those three things are like the lens for their whole tech plan.
Got it. That gives us a clear framework then. So let's jump in and see how they're actually using tech to hit those marks.
Okay, so kicking things off, a really foundational goal, it seems woven throughout, is bringing different data sources together. The documents put a lot of emphasis on creating this thing called a unified manager dashboard.
Right, the old single pane of glass. What's the specific benefit they're aiming for with this dashboard?
Well, the stated goal is real-time data integration. The idea is to pull info from all these different systems into one spot, give leadership a clearer, faster picture across, critical areas, empower better decisions.
And the plan actually names those areas, right? Finance, operations, medical, and resident satisfaction.
Exactly.
So leaders in those departments, instead of digging through separate systems, should just see it all there, theoretically.
That's the idea, transforming scattered data bits into, actionable insight.
Okay, so moving from that big picture data view to something specific. The plan mentions a pretty big 6-month IT goal for finance.
Yeah, it's quite ambitious, actually. They're aiming for a 5-day financial close.
Wow, 5 days.
Yeah, and that's coupled with a push for more automation in their financial processes.
They even call out specific tools, Ramp and Sage Intacct, for budgeting. But why is that 5-day close so critical? What do the documents say?
Well, they explicitly state it's critical for their overall financial sustainability. Getting that close done faster means they can spot trends or issues much more quickly.
Makes sense.
And it also enhances what they call NOM, visibility net operating margin.
Okay.
Which they see as key for helping managers understand their department's spending almost in real time and take ownership of their budgets. It connects that data goal directly to financial health, accountability.
Right. Accountability down the line. Okay, let's shift over to operations. This seems really focused on direct impact for residents. Work order efficiency is a big part of this.
Absolutely. The plan goes into detail on how they want to improve the work order process. Things like making sure informative update notifications go out automatically to residents.
Oh, that's good. So residents aren't left wondering.
Exactly. And tracking the time spent on work orders for better management, resource allocation, and importantly, adding a step to confirm the work order is actually done before closing it.
That confirmation step. That's interesting. So it's not just closed in the system, it's verified with the resident.
Seems like it. A direct way to check on resident satisfaction, not just assume it.
Yeah. And they also want reports to find repeat issues, right?
Right. Identifying those repeat requests helps them, look beyond just fixing the symptom each time. Maybe there's an underlying problem that needs a different kind of fix.
A more permanent solution.
Precisely. They're also pushing for more work orders through their resident app, make it easier for residents to submit requests.
Convenience.
And automating the forwarding of maintenance voicemails to email. Get quicker responses that way.
Okay, and under operations, dining is also getting attention. What's happening there?
So the plan mentions Full Count Phase 2. Full Count is their dining system. And Phase 2 includes enabling online ordering for residents.
Convenient.
Yeah, a simple way to place meal orders. And it also focuses on nutritional content awareness, giving residents better access to info so they can make informed choices about meals, dietary needs, preferences, that sort of thing.
That hits both convenience and health. Good combo. And they mentioned full count report tracking. What's that about?
Yeah, that part is more about using the system's data to optimize the behind-the-scenes stuff, like ingredient ordering, staff planning, improving efficiency in the kitchen and service.
Which ultimately affects the dining experience.
Exactly.
Okay, so beyond those areas directly hitting residents, the plan also covers other maybe less visible functions like medical safety infrastructure.
That's right. In medical, the focus seems to be on improving data quality in their patient care system. They call it PCC. So cleaning up existing records, staff training on the latest SOPs for data entry and documentation.
Standard operating procedures.
Right. And using feedback from reports based on that data. It's all about standardizing and making the medical info more reliable.
Okay. And safety and security.
The plan notes enhancements to something called RCL Advanced Tracking. The doc suggests this relates to maybe resident location or movement tracking,
Okay.
and also adding more security cameras in key spots. Seems like pretty straightforward steps to boost safety and monitoring.
Gotcha. And then there's the foundational stuff, the infrastructure improvements. What's on the list for the next 6 months there?
Simplifying their phone system where they can, but keeping essential lines for emergencies, of course. Making sure there's reliable internet everywhere, specifically calling out the ground shop needing it.
Right. Can't forget the grounds crew.
And rolling out Windows 11 upgrades on compatible machines across the board.
Foundational stuff, like keeping the lights on, making sure everyone can connect.
Exactly. Essential, but maybe not glamorous. Now, while that 6-month plan is about immediate action, the documents also give us this really interesting peek into things they're evaluating for the future, building on all this.
Okay. This is where it gets forward looking. What kind of outside the box ideas are they exploring?
Well, one area is predictive analytics for their clinic usage, using historical visit data to try and anticipate busy periods, plan staffing, supplies.
Forecasting based on data. Smart. Makes sense for efficiency. And they mentioned looking at data silos.
Yes, that's a key future step. Creating an internal map, like a crosswalk, of all their different data silos, identifying where data lives, who owns it, and exploring how they might integrate these systems down the road.
Getting a handle on their whole data landscape.
Right. So they can approach integration strategically, not just reactively, which, raises that big question for everyone. How do you make sure all your different systems can actually talk to each other effectively?
Absolutely. That's a massive challenge everywhere. And okay, investigating additional AI tools. That's obviously a huge topic right now.
Indeed. And the plan lists quite a few potential AI applications they're looking into. It's actually a really diverse list.
Okay, like what?
Well, for companionship, they mentioned tools like EleQ, that's a robotic companion for seniors. For cognitive monitoring, they're looking at MindU, which uses AI to analyze speech.
Speech patterns, interesting.
Yeah, to detect subtle changes. For safety, there's Safely You, which uses video and AI specifically for fall detection.
So not just operational efficiency, but directly into resident care interaction.
Exactly. They're also exploring AI for meal planning, things like Suggestic or Savor Health for personalized nutrition. And even on the creative side, using generative AI like DLE or Midjourney to create visuals from memories, maybe linked to platforms like Kitchen Table for life enrichment.
Wow.
They also mentioned maybe a ChatGPT-based feedback kiosk for residents, and CarePredict for monitoring movement and behavior patterns to spot health changes early.
That is a really broad spectrum. Safety, health, engagement, even creativity. It shows they're thinking about AI pretty holistically for resident well-being.
And it's not just residents. They also mentioned managers getting proficient with Copilot and other new features. So bringing AI help into work too.
Right, workflows as well.
So when you step back and look at this whole plan, the unified data, the finance goals, work orders, dining, safety, infrastructure, and then these future AI explorations, you can really connect it all back to those 3 initial questions.
Yeah. How does this whole roadmap actually deliver on reducing workload, giving better info faster, and improving the resident experience?
Well, the unified dashboard is clearly better information faster for leadership.
Yeah.
Finance automation, streamlined work orders, that's reducing workload. Making work orders easier via the app, the notifications, that confirmation step that directly hits resident experience, plus efficiency. Nutrition info, online ordering and dining, again, resident experience convenience.
Right.
The future AI tools, they're explicitly aimed at enhancing resident experience, safety, companionship, health monitoring, engagement, and even the infrastructure stuff, like better internet or simpler phones, ultimately reduces staff workload and improves reliability, which impacts residents.
It really seems like they're strategically using tech on many fronts, but always mapping it back to those practical outcomes for staff and residents. It's not, tech for tech's sake.
Definitely not.
Well, that was a genuinely insightful look inside a real organization's 6-month tech plan. We saw how they're building that foundation with data, driving efficiency in core areas like finance and ops, and even looking ahead pretty broadly with AI, all guided by those clear goals, make things easier for staff, get info faster, and fundamentally improve residents' lives.
Yeah, what's really striking is seeing how that strategic vision, centered on data and resident well-being, cascades down into such specific, tangible things. Everything from a 5-day close to AI companions and predictive health tools.
It really underscores how tech planning, in any sector really, needs that clear connection from the high-level strategy down to the actual impact on people, staff, end users, whoever they are. Something to think about as you consider the technology roadmaps shaping your own world.
That's it. So the voices that narrated this presentation were robots. Yeah.
I heard those two hokey voices. I'd like to change their accents.
We can put them from New Zealand,
Yeah, let's do that.
South Africa. So, Cass, did you have a question or
That was my question.
about the voices?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is this a proprietary system that we're engaging with to do all this planning for
No,
us? And are these Republic of Mind You, ChatGPT, Care, all these, are they proprietary? So
Some are proprietary, like Full Count, of course, is proprietary. But others are open. You can access like ChatGPT, and anybody could access that.
we pay into something to bring ChatGPT to us or to bring Republic back to us.
Well, we use Microsoft, so we use Copilot, which is part of Windows 11.
I think the other thing that came to my mind is what about resident privacy? If we're going to be doing
Tracking the walls and everything else that we try to hide all the time.
or just a general privacy question: to whom is our data available, and how do we keep records?
Can you all hear Kate back there?
Not very well.
The question was, how do we protect resident privacy? Through all of this, and I guess the best way to describe it is that we apply HIPAA to pretty much anything that we do with resident data. So it is protected in that vein, if you will.
But I don't.
Yeah.
Can we opt out of any?
Well, I don't know that there's anything to opt into.
Right, that's why it's supposed to.
You can opt out by not using Uniguest, for example, to order your meals. That would be an example of opting out. In terms of clinical records, I don't know, Chris, do you want to?
We're already through our electronic health record with Point Click Care. We document falls, things that we hear. We create incident reports, and then those are reported up because we want to understand, what are causing falls, where are people falling most? Is Mercedes and Matt's balance classes, are they effective? Do we need other items for that instance? So it's not, when a report is given, it's not a name. It's just number of falls and the data. So we're collecting that data, but your name, we do know clinically, not everybody else has to know, but clinically, for instance, who has a fall. I know, Jay, you mentioned opting out of ordering meals. It helps us understand what the likes and dislikes are on this campus, even staffing issues and things. So it's really a helpful, I see it as a real helpful tool. I know it's kind of a wild. We did some kind of ChatGPT and all of us, created these, robots in a sense to create this whole podcast. It's like, wow, that is wild. So it is wild to kind of get your head around these things, but it's
and the PCC, the health data in PCC, Point Click Care, If it's transmitted anywhere, it's encrypted.
Right, and it's not really necessary to transmit anywhere. So we have a risk management incident section within Point Click Care where we document incidents that we need to be aware of and care in communities, but that does not translate, like the state can't see it and things like that. It's in a protected area, so I don't know if that helps.
I don't know if that answers your
Elon Musk will find it.
I think he already has it.
I'm sure he does.
Anyway, we just wanted to share this, with everybody this morning. It gives you, like I said, it gives you an idea of what we're up to from a technology perspective. I'm sorry, Annalise, she's in a construction meeting right now. She was hoping to be here this morning. But I can tell you that our May results, we did finish in 5 business days, the close. And we did, for the first time since I've been here, our net operating margin is in positive territory. It's 1 point. Thanks, Chris. So that's good. And just real quick, our occupancy is at 92%. We're 97% occupied and reserved. We have 14 applications in progress, and we've had 4 contract signings representing 6 residents through the end of May. So that's kind of where we are. So anyway, if Annalise does come back, maybe she can go into more detail on the financials, but they were very good for May and year to date. So thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Can I have the microphone? I know how to turn it on. You know how to turn it on?
It's on the bottom.
On the bottom. I think it's on now, maybe.
No.
It's in the middle.
That's what I thought.
Push it up.
There you go.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Jay.
Really loud.
This is pretty loud.
Fine.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just have 3 quick things to mention. Jay kind of teased me into making a comment on the status report of the Medicare A after his memo went out, which was clear, but left some of us maybe a tad confused, Jay. Very simply, I think I can explain that when Jay first got here, he realized that we have unused capacity in the health center. As you all have heard many times, our consensus, we have 36 beds in the health center, and our consensus is in the 26, 27, maybe 28 range. So clearly there's untapped occupancy there. And so Jay and his staff concluded a potential wonderful additional resource, which would flow to the bottom line for us, would be to take outpatient recoveries through Medicare Advantage plan. So the administration started down that path to get the necessary approvals for the Medicare Advantage. Then, of course, all of the CEQA issues hit on the construction and everything of the redo of the health center. So that was put on hold for a little bit. But then what recently has happened, the administration anticipated that a lot of that referral business potentially would come from Montage, which was a very valid and logical assumption. But in the interim, Montage has decided, they have their own outpatient facility called Westland House. And Westland House, as many of us have seen and visited, but may not know, currently has 26 beds. And Montage intends to increase that by 16 beds, bringing its capacity up to 42. And we have checked with Montage just even within the last week, and they have confirmed that their plans are still to go ahead with that. So what that caused Jay and Annalise and the rest of and Chris and their team to do was reanalyze the Medicare Advantage. The bottom line is that the incremental costs to be able to handle Medicare advantage in our healthcare center. The incremental costs are equivalent to approximately an occupancy of 3 beds, just because of the back room added staff and upgrade in nursing requirements, et cetera. So with the increased capacity at Westland House, the administration is taking a pause. I think is taking a pause on this Medicare Advantage pursuit, because it may not be quite as easy to garner that incremental business coming in for outpatient rehab that we might have anticipated with the Westland House expansion. So stay tuned. Just 2 other things I wanted to mention. I really want to thank Annalise. I think primarily was the point person, but certainly Chris and Jay and others on the management staff were involved. You know, we as residents from time to time, I know I've heard this since I've become involved, sometimes wonder about the turnaround time on units when they become vacant before they're reoccupied. And they have really jumped into this, and it started with Annalise spearheading a very in-depth, very comprehensive analysis on the turnaround times at various junctures. You know, how long to close a new resident, how long to resolve the improvement plans, how long to get the permits through the county, how long to do the actual construction, how long if there's any gap between the completion of the construction and the move-in of the resident. So in any event, they have a very extensive data bank now on where the time is spent on those situations. And so now they're embarking upon and have embarked upon the analysis of how they can bring improvement to the sequence. But it was really important for them to get a good foundation of data bank to know what they were dealing with before they tried to solve the problem. But, you know, I think our applause should go out to the administration for taking on this issue, which, you know, is ever... Your name was mentioned 3 times in the last 4 minutes, and you weren't even here to take a bow. But in any event, I think we can be so happy that they're putting their arms around this issue, because as you all can well imagine, this means real dollars to the bottom line, which you can speed up this turnaround process. And so anyway, that's an added girl to Annalise and the rest of the staff. You know, the work is still ahead, but at least the foundation is there to start getting the arms around it, and that's encouraging. Lastly, which I thought was a little bit of a whim when I first heard it, but then I quickly realized in an executive committee meeting last week that it's not just a whimsical idea, but Cass brought to our attention an issue of seagulls. Seagulls visiting our swimming pool and hot tub. Now, for those who don't frequent...
John, hello?
Yes.
Could you try speaking without the microphone?
Okay.
It's very muddled out here. I don't know whether the rest of the people who are coming in from outside are having problems or not.
Okay. We'll
ahead.
do. Thanks, Hirsch. In any event, so the seagulls had been. It works, huh, Hirsch? Okay. We don't need the system in the sky and the ceiling works. So in any event, what I first thought is, isn't that interesting? It is indeed a real issue. And so Chris is on it. And we sat in that meeting and everybody was Googling, you know, how do you get rid of seagulls? How do you discourage seagulls? And so the path has started. But hopefully that issue will be, I know it'll be addressed and mitigated sometime in the near future.
The Pacific Grove hires a falconer.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Right up there.
Well, Cannery Row, I know, having been involved in properties over the years in Cannery Row, it's just an extreme challenge.
And Del Monte Center employs
Center.
a guy who walks around with a falcon on his arm, and it takes care of all the seagulls.
Yeah.
That's what it's during the nesting season is
that
when
what
they
it
need
is?
to do that.
So we're looking for volunteers to be the falcon. So,
Just so everybody knows, I did purchase and will be getting on Wednesday one of those hawks that, is on a pole and just kind of flies around, falcon, flies around. So I'll look to see what building to place it on. It won't be forever, but just temporary. I've gone out to look for the seagulls. I've not yet seen them, but I have seen some evidence.
The evidence.
Evidence, so.
Well, car was covered with evidence about a few days ago.
it's all funny until you want to go in the hot tub, huh?
Exactly.
Okay.
May I just say, I hope Chris's will work because
Yes.
I've observed the seagulls when I was in the pool.
Okay.
When I was in the pool, they chose the hot tub, but they have to keep wetting the dirt, okay? And algae and everything that comes
Oh,
from
yeah.
above.
Anyway, Cass gets a gold star for bringing that to our attention. Thanks very much. Cass, you're up next with your treasurer's report, please.
Well, before I give the numbers, I would like to say that more people are using our Costco card, which is great. And I'm encouraging other people. You can save your annual fee and it will contribute to the residents' financial well-being at the end of the year when we get a dividend. Anyway, there are 2 cards at the front desk, so please feel free to use them, sign them out. So our monthly expenses in May were $5,187. And so far this year, we have spent $17,000, $17,001. The Rose monthly contribution was $1,000, and we transferred some money from a money market fund, so we would have enough to pay our bills. The available funds for expenditure at the end of the month, this is right. U.S. Bank checking balance was $12,994. The Schwab investment funds, $284,899. And the reserve funds, the Hanson McCulloch Fund for the library, $4,905. The Anniversary Celebration Fund, $2,240. The Mary B. Wagner Library Fund, $2,375. The Reserve Fund, $10,000. The Residents Benefit Rose Fund, $107,984. That one is doing well. And the Alabaster Fund, $52,090. Are there any questions?
I think we should be very, very proud of that, Cass.
Thank you.
Any questions of Cass?
Thank
Good
you.
job, Cass.
Thank you.
Well, now we're gonna burden Mrs. Syerson this morning because she's actually gonna give us 2 reports.
May I do the Hillcrest first?
Yeah, do the Hillcrest first. You can do them in any order you choose.
In regard to Hillcrest, the thing we've been waiting for so long is the refresh, of course, but it's had to be put back again till, the last I heard was the 26th of June. Is that still correct?
Correct.
Yeah. There was a little, it's a matter of getting enough people to do the beginning work and all. Not any problem on the Manners end. So we're doing the best we can. That's going to be a bit of a trying time for the residents because their dining room is one of the places that's going to be refreshed, of course, and so people are going to have to move, and management has it all organized about how people go where and all. But, it will be a little distressing because you can't go in your regular dining room. So I would encourage residents to invite Hillcrest residents, perhaps to come to dinner. Not every night, I know we can't do all that, but as you think about it, that period during July would be a wonderful time to have them be able to eat in our dining room here in the pavilion. So think about that. Other than that, our last meetings were monopolized mostly by parking challenges at Hillcrest and safe access routes to the independent living area. Some of us choose to go where the trucks are, and that's a real challenge because it's certainly, in my opinion, not safe. So those are the things we're discussing right now. It's shorter, but I think it's worth going the other way. Anything else? Questions about Hillcrest? Yes, ma'am. Diane?
Mary, if we invite a resident from Hillcrest, is it possible for them to get, a little help coming over, or?
Yes. If you can let Nina know ahead of time, she's been wonderful about seeing that people can have access, having an aide bring them and take them back, or, whatever. Some people can come by themselves, but that's a wonderful comment, Diana. Nina's been sort of terrific about, but she of course has to know ahead of time in order to arrange that. Okay. Good question. Anything else? So it's good. July will be extra kind to your Hillcrest friends. Thank you. I'm accustomed to having, when I'm talking, a podium, but I didn't think to tell John that, so I'm going to use a chair, if you don't mind. That holds me up. This morning, excuse me, Hirsch and Larry, I have my back to you, and others that are there too. You've had a nice trip into the future with Jay's report, and I am, of course, going to take you back in history in more ways than one. For instance, I'm standing in front of you talking, leaning on a chair, and I have no visuals, so I will try and do this effectively, if not with a wonderful AI voice. If you can't hear me, please speak up right away. There's really no point in my talking or you're listening if you can't hear. So this report is really on the evolution of resident participation. And I've taken that because when I was asked to report on the last board meeting, and you noticed you haven't seen me coming and reporting on board meetings, is because you've actually already heard the board meeting reports. Every reporter, Jay, very nicely gives a really full report. I have never had anything to add. He talks about operations, finance, strategic planning, and even in these in-between council meetings, he adds to it. And I listen carefully, and I always talk with Jay, and I've really seen no reason. There's nothing to add. He said it all. So, having said that, I thought I would go back and tell you about a little bit of the history of the involvement of residents with the Manor Board. First, I should probably explain a little bit of the structure. I know we have people here who've probably been here a year and people who have been here 25 years. And I'm not sure it's clear to any or all of us. But the board currently has 12 members. And some of them are residents at this time. Attending the meetings, we have, of course, the board members, but we have emeritus board members. And then the executive council attends, the president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. So those people are all there for the open sessions, listening to everything that goes on. Russ Hazley and Ramona Smith are our current emeritus board members. They began their participation by being selected by the board. And really, resident participation on the board has been accepted now as a part of the board. But it happens in two ways. People begin as board members and cycle around, they become residents, etc. And then it can go totally the other way, where people become residents and then they circle around the other way. Russ Hazley and Ramona Smith, our current emeritus board members, began their participation by being selected for the board from the community. Russ came first and was on the board for 15 or 16 years. The requirement to be an emeritus is you need to be on that board for 12 years, which means that Bertie Bielek, who was on the board for 3 years, is not listed there, which is too bad because then she doesn't come to the board meetings. And then when Russ came to the manor as a resident, when he retired, and he retired from the board of directors and moved into the manor and participated in many significant ways, as did Monty. He became a council member, and at some point, the president of the council. And he's continued to participate all these years. Ramona's situation is somewhat similar. She was on the board of directors for, I think, 17 years, and then moved to the manor, where she has resided for the past 15 years. Ramona then participated on committees and became a council member, and then became president of the council, and has continued to participate all these many years. So you can see there's two avenues to being a board member at the manor. Others of us have become board members beginning from totally the opposite way, which was, as I said, we became residents, and then we became chairpersons, were selected to the council, became president of the council, which includes board membership now. This evolution, I like to call it, came about because, first of all, the state of California, at one point, we became aware of this in 2013, that they will require that care facilities have a resident as a board member, a full board member with voting rights. So in 2014, Bob Lindsay, who is with us this morning, was selected by the residents to become the first resident board member. He served for 9 years. The length of the term has been changed to 3 years, which might make it a little more attractive to other people. 9 years is a long time. And Bob really deserves our gratitude and admiration for that very special service. I'd like to recommend. If you can picture being the only resident on a board that has never had a resident, that's a pretty challenging and perhaps lonely position.
Mary,
Yes.
can I add something? When that was discovered, it was Rob Cooper was searching through the regulations on the internet, and he discovered that, and somehow that information had not surfaced to the board for, I think it had been in effect for almost a year. So he highlighted that to the council, and the council took immediate action to bring that to the board.
In my research, that's not quite accurate, and then we
I
should
was
wait.
there when it happened.
Yeah. Okay. Carrying right on, we'll address that as we get to it. In 2018, what you're addressing, Manor residents became aware, and it was via Rob Cooper, that the state of California was requiring a second position. But Otto said it had nothing to do with Bob, it's the second
I'm
position.
sorry,
Yeah.
it was the second position.
Yes, thank you very
You're
much. Mhm. I did spend a little time trying to make sure what I said was correct. So thanks to Rob's research, who was always a curious guy, we became aware of the fact that there was to be a second position. But by the state of California, that second position is a non-voting position. And thanks to Jack's input, who just left, I've reviewed the documents as recently as last night, and it hasn't changed. It's still the same 2 positions. At that time, the resident council was given the responsibility to decide how that person's going to be selected. And at that time, they decided that the person that should be that second person, representative, would be the council president. Jack Embaum was the president at that time. So he finished on the board for the year 2018. And that position has been filled in with the following presidents as each person became president. I was president after Jack, and then Tom Neal, and now John Mahoney, who fills that position. In 2022, there came a real surprise. And that was that the board on their own, without any direction from the state of California, for the first time, selected a resident to be a board member with the full rights and privileges included. And that resident is Larry Finch. Larry began his term on the board in January of 2023. At that same time, Bob's 9 years were up and his term ended. And the residents selected a person to follow him beginning in 2024, and that person happens to be me. In 2025, we had another little surprise in that Susan Freeland has become a resident at the Manor. She became a board member in 2021 and the board president in 2024. When she decided to be a resident here, she relinquished her presidency on the board. She's also was the founding president of the foundation. So, for 50 years, from 1963 through 2013, there were no residents on the Carmel Valley Board, and it was structured that way intentionally. So 0. Now, currently, there are 4. John Mahoney as president of the council, me as the resident board member, Larry Finch as a board member, and Susan Freeland as a board member. We've come a long way, thanks to the state of California, the residents, and the board of directors. And I want to note especially because Jay is our CEO. He really encourages and supports resident participation at all levels and has supported our participation on the board. So I'd like to thank all of you for that and conclude by saying 4 out of 12 is a lot better than 0 out of 12.
Yeah.
Did you want to add anything as a board member?
No, I don't, other than my experience has been wonderful, the couple of board meetings that I've had the pleasure to attend. But Mary, that was just a wonderful background, and I'm sure for many of us, particularly us newer residents or newer involved. Does anybody have
John, let me ask Larry. Larry, you're the other board member. Do you have any comments to add?
I think it's probably appropriate to mention the other 8. We are very blessed to have 8 members of the local community that bring a wide range of skills and knowledge and background and life history to the manor. They are compensated at 0. They spend it their own time, and we really owe them a great deal of gratitude. They come with all kinds of backgrounds from construction and property management and healthcare, legal, medical, and we're very fortunate to have them as the other 8.
Thanks, Larry. I think that is important. And one thing that I'm hoping can happen is that we can have some opportunity to meet these people. They really are wonderful people. The problem is that they're very active in the community, and most of them are still fully in work. So having them have any time, but if we can think of some ways that might be not so they can come to a meeting and go hi, but maybe be able to have a little conversation with some people so that you get to know them as people. They are real people, and they're, as Larry said, knowledgeable and quite friendly.
Yeah. I know I've had the pleasure of knowing the current chair of the board, Dan Limeson, for a number of years. He was an executive until his recent retirement with Montage, and he certainly seems to have slid into that chair in a very professional way, and I certainly have enjoyed seeing his leadership just since the first of this year. So.
Did you want to add anything, Jay?
No, I'm good.
You're good.
Thank you.
Do you want to questions?
Does anybody have any thank you, Mary. This was very informative. Does anybody have any questions or comments, Mary? Jerian?
Mary?
Excuse me, wait a minute. Jerian?
Thank you. I think this is such a valuable piece of work, Mary. I think that the entire community would be very interested in having a copy of that if possible, because it lets us know a little bit more about the construction and the history of our board. Possibly Accents could be a vehicle to disseminate it. Just a thought.
Yeah, whatever you like. I do believe it's been recorded. Is that correct, John?
Yes.
So then.
Oh, it'll be in the minutes.
Yeah, it'll be.
Mary, if you will send me a copy of that, I will include it as an appendix to the minutes, along with committee reports, etc.
Yeah.
Thank you. What you may be thinking about, Jerry, if it's on the website, there are still some people who won't see it, but we can think about that, sure.
If you should end up doing something more than just the minutes and the accents or something, I think it would be nice to list the other 8 board members.
Surely.
And maybe a couple of words about their discipline in private life. And just as a follow-up to what Larry said, that could be informative, I think, to the residents in general. Otto, you had a comment?
I was just so impressed with the level of research and the depth of research, Mary, that you put into that. That's the most complete description of what happened with regard to this issue. I think that it would also be wise to hand that over to the archivist, the Manor archivist, and put that report in its entirety as it's in whatever's added to it as a result of this meeting, and save that for future generations when they're looking back and seeing what happened at this really, there's so much happening in the Manor right now. I think this is a time when people, generations from now, hopefully, will look back and say, that was a turning point.
And you know, the other thing that I've become much aware of is it caused me to have some additional conversations with Ramona and Russ. And you want to talk about history and history of the Manor. I mean, they go way back on all kinds of things that I don't know. And I'm sure that Bob would have some great stories to tell too, being the storyteller and author that he is. Did you want to add anything, Bob?
No, it's very impressive that all the work you did on this. So I learned a lot. And the sequence of leadership at a big period.
Thank you. Any other
questions or comments for Mary? Well, Mary, thank you so much. That was wonderful. We don't have on our agenda any noted old business or new business items, but I'll ask, is there any old business?
Can I just take 5 minutes of my time back so Annalise can give the financial report?
I don't know. Yes, absolutely. Let's do that now.
3 minutes.
No, 6 minutes. At least you're up.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I wasn't in the room when other comments were made, so I may be going over material we've already covered. I was at the construction meeting. I think you may have spoken about the construction services. It's a really great team. They function really well. I've been participating, watching how they function for maybe 3 months now. And there's great communication between all of the different participants that plan for making sure that the turnover process is as seamless as possible. As you know, we still have a lot of construction needed for our independent living units that have not been modernized, I would say. You know, there's an opportunity as they become open to adjust the floor plan, to raise ceilings, to make sure that the showers are upgraded. So that work takes a while to do that. Our county permitting process is long, and there's a lot to it. And as I've observed, what the work that's going on is the team works very, very effectively together. I did an analysis of the timing and of how it's been been for the last 5 years. And one of the things that impacted the analysis is that we had low occupancy through the prior decade. The occupancy of the community had dropped, and it had been dropping. And when the pandemic hit, it was kind of at its lowest point. And if you remember in 2020 and 2021, we were all asked to shelter in place and to stay in place. And what that did was it further exacerbated the occupancy issue. So in the data that I analyzed, we had this period of low occupancy, so we were having to bring it up. So in 2022, we started to bring in a lot more residents because the community had reopened, and at the same time do a lot of construction. So we have this period where it took a long time to turn a unit. I can happily report it's great to have the data and to put a stake in the ground and understand the past. But now that we have that data, we're very focused on the future. And we are already seeing the benefit of the construction work we've done over the last 4 years. We're starting to see units come available that have already had that significant construction performed to it. So we have a number of units that are coming up that are just going to require new paint, and because they're absolutely beautiful units. And so now we're going to be able to see how quickly under the new, as the campus has been, the fully renovation of the campus occurs over the next 2 to 3 years. We should be complete in the next 2 to 4 years. You can't plan when apartments are going to come available. But once that's done, we should start to see that the turnover process is much shorter. So I'm very excited to have a stake in the ground on the data and to start being able to see the improvement. Also, the practice of doing it enabled the team to really talk about what were some of the challenges that they were having and to maybe adjust our contracts. And so we did that, and we're starting to see the fruits of that as well. So we adjusted our contract for upgrades. So if a resident wants to have an upgrade done to the Manor standard, now we have a contract that lays out the terms of that, and it's all understood, and it becomes a good project management document because we understand the scope, we manage to the scope. If the scope changes, then we can manage to the scope changes, but it's all understood. It's not, this constantly moving thing. So having that tool in place, we have it now in place with all contracts starting this year. And the result of the work the team has put into this project over the last 12 months has resulted in a really nice tailwind for our financials. So it was a long lead in to telling you that because of our construction services revenues, we currently have a positive net operating margin. Yay! Yeah. So, and it's very exciting. I don't know that we'll finish that year, the year in a positive note, because on the resident fee side, we're still below our budget. We're 3% below our budget. That's about $235,000. And what's driving that is not independent living. Independent living, we're at budget. In fact, we're 3% above budget for independent living census. We met the budgeted census, average census for the year. But what's holding us down is that our skilled nursing facility, the health center, has a lower census than we planned, and assisted living also is undergoing some transition. And so right now it's not hitting its census target. So that's what's keeping our care fees below budget. The team is working on the things that can be done to get that back on target. Our business is constantly changing. And because there's people involved in it, you have to manage to the intricacies and the uniqueness of every individual's experience on where they want to live. So it's complicated. So going to the high level, we're 6% above budget in our revenues. And that's a 17% increase over last year to date. So that's very, very good news. It's also, we have higher than planned guest house usage and guest meals. So that must be because we have such an amazing chef, and it's a great place to bring your families and friends. On the operating expenses side, we are slightly under budget, so we're slightly favorable to budget. And so overall, our increase to net assets, that includes depreciation and amortization, is just under $1.5 million. So any questions?
What a wonderful upbeat report.
Yeah. It's all good. Lots of opportunity.
Thank you, Annalise. Jay, do you have anything more?
That was my report.
That was your report. You offloaded a lot today, didn't you? Between Devin and Annalise, you got a pretty good ride.
And I'm not even here. This is an avatar.
Oh, this is.
I'm not here either.
Yeah, okay. We don't have any items noted on the old business agenda. Does any council members have any before we? Yes, Kate.
One resident commented about the cocktail parties on Wednesday and Saturday, and I think they've been enjoyed, but the question keeps coming up about furniture, that it's not conducive to good planning for social events. And they wanted to know if it's possible to move the furniture or not. I think there was some misinformation.
We couldn't hear back there. Thermal refrigerator. The question was about whether it's possible to move the furniture for the cocktail gatherings on Wednesday and Wednesday and Saturday nights, because it's felt that the furniture isn't conducive to social gatherings. No place to put the drink. People line up.
Take the mic.
We can't hear you without the mic. Yeah, but we didn't hear what you said.
Somebody
repeat it because there's a refrigerator truck out there.
I'll repeat what I think Kate said. Kate said that the cocktail parties that have been started for Wednesday and Saturday evenings in the reception area, and it's an issue we've heard of before, that it's not totally conducive to good conversation or social gathering. And I know you've been on this subject, Jay, many times.
The only thing I could recommend is go back to the Interior Design Committee, have them submit a plan, and we'll consider it at that time.
Oh, okay, so the understanding is that the furniture is not to be moved until the designer gives an okay? We have to submit another.
That's correct.
Okay.
When will that be?
But the existing seating plan, other than where the two leather couches currently reside, was designed and selected by the Interior Design Committee.
Okay, so the takeaway is it stays put unless a request is made through the designers to rearrange.
No, Interior Design Committee.
The committee can make their recommendations, and then we can take it to the designer, to SOM.
What committee?
Interior design.
Is that?
That's the residents.
That's the residents committee. Okay, it goes that way and then up.
There's a problem. There's still a problem when you use the microphone. It gets very muddled. Strangely enough, when Jay speaks, not into the microphone, it's very clear out here. Thanks, Jay, for speaking up and speaking clearly. And I was doing very well hearing Mary and John when he didn't use the microphone.
The problem, Hirsch, is that the people in the room cannot hear without the microphone.
Yeah.
There seems to be a microphone on now somewhere.
There's a refrigerator truck.
Oh, there's a refrigerator truck, Hirsch, that's operating just outside the room.
Oh, okay. Okay.
My recommendation would be to call these meetings in the meeting house where we don't have this cross interference or whatever it's called, outside interference, microphone interference.
How is that for setup, John?
Could be done.
A little more of a challenge setup wise, but Mary, you had a comment on this interior.
Yes, on the interior, I wanted to clarify. People have been saying that we can't move any of those couches or anything until the SOM releases it. Is that still true?
Yes.
Okay, so we can't move them a little bit away? See, there's no room for a cocktail table there or whatever.
Well, if they're going to be moved on a temporary basis, to accommodate a party, that's one thing. If you're talking about permanently moving, then SOM wants to come down for a camera shoot where they want to bring a prospective client to the site. They expect that it's going to look the way they designed it.
How long does that go on?
3 years, I think.
3 years.
Okay, because Ben, what will happen is that, and John knows about that kind of thing, is that we will be set up Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday for the Wednesday gathering, and then we'll still be set up Thursday or Friday for the Saturday, because we can't keep moving them back and forth. If they let us know, we'll put it in. You can't operate without a cocktail table there.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah. So, well, anyhow, food for thought. I happen to be one of the co-chairmen of the interior design, unfortunately, at this time, so that's what I'm speaking of. The new chair is Mary Jane Lloyd, and then Carol Poole and I are support team. So, yeah, okay. I think the holdup is this being able to move it and leave it there, isn't it?
Well, you may want to talk to Russ too, because because he knows how to move the stuff so that it makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. None of us are designers, and you know how we become chairs in that case is because the other people don't want to do it anymore for good reason.
Does that give you a good enough roadmap, Kate? Okay, let's move on. Is there any other old business that any council member wants to bring forward? Any new business that any council member wants to bring forward? If not, let's go to what's next, open forum, I think. Residents forum. So, yes, Karen.
I wanted to ask a question about the AI presentation. Can anybody hear?
Yep.
Okay. My question is, it's pretty clear that AI can make mistakes. And when you're using AI to create narratives, reports, and things like that, what procedures are in place to make sure that AI is not telling us something that's not true?
Well, we review everything, before it makes it to the residents. There's a feature in Copilot, for example, that allows you to, review and approve before you send it along. So I think there's internally, at least, we have that down. We're all just learning. Devin is holding classes for us, so we're taking it on slowly. Not everybody is using it. Not everybody's comfortable with it. And certainly we wouldn't intentionally send out something that is incorrect or not accurate.
So it's basically no different from a written report that you
Yeah.
review.
Right.
The reason I was asking is I recently read a report about a government report that was disseminated. And it was filled, among its citations and references were ones that did not actually exist. But the report itself sounded perfectly reasonable. It was simply based on sources that didn't exist. And I'm just wondering how we can protect ourselves from that kind of thing.
Great question.
Yeah.
I don't have a good answer for it.
There's a term that people who write about AI use, and apparently it hallucinates from time to time.
Yes, I've heard that term.
That's a wonderful word.
Yes.
So minor.
We all do.
Okay, any other comments on that issue, Karen, or
No.
any other issues
Wanted to
from
bring it up.
council members or guests online? I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Have fun. See y'all soon.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, Jay.